So what we want to do is cultivate cultivate a capacity for kindness. So, close your eyes. Take a few moments to breathe in and breathe out. Alrighty, let's get started, chat. So welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I'm a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. We're going to go ahead and, if y'all have a concern or question, please go see a licensed professional. We're going to go ahead and hop right into our creator group. And I think today we'll sort of focus a little bit more on translating what we've learned so far into actionable information. So let's go ahead and hop in. Yeah. Okay. Yo. We are live.
Oh,
hello. Let me turn this on and then pop this out so that we don't leak anything. And then do this. All right. Hello, everyone. How y'all doing today?
Thank you.
I went outside.
You went outside?
Yeah.
Good.
Twice in 1 week. I don't even know what to say.
Wow.
I know. I'm stepping up my game.
Okay. Yeah, so sorry for submitting that recap a little bit late, but let's go ahead and start with check-ins and tell us a little bit about how your week has been, a little bit about what your experience of the homework was, and if you have anything. So the last thing that I'll kind of ask for y'all is, okay, we've learned some skills, some techniques. We've talked a little bit about your goals. So what I'd love for y'all to do is ask us for a favor. In the next, let's say we're going to wrap this group up maybe by like mid-December is what I'm guessing, because I think we're taking a couple weeks off. So by mid-December, what would you like to be sorted out about your life? Okay? So how the last week has been, what your experience of the homework was, and like where is a good place for you to be mid-December?
Okay. I can go first.
Okay.
So as far as the homework goes, you wanted me to like look at my options in careers, and I'm still learning a lot more about the various kinds of community management, and I'm not really sure like how to veer out of that, like if there are like any things alongside that or anything that I could do. So I am thinking, what I do know is that I'm a people person and I like helping people with problems, and ultimately if I am going to have any sort of satisfaction from what I do, I want people to feel better after having dealt with me. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but that would be nice.
Okay.
Because I've done enough jobs where I'm on the back end just pushing papers or signing documents or visiting people's desks doing audits. I'm a 9001 certified ISO auditor, by the way, and it's like you show up at someone's desk and they're like, no, and you're like, I got to do my job, and it's not fun. But that's just not for me. Maybe some people like it. And then as far as like this last week goes, I was struggling so much with the time change and the seasonal affective disorder and stuff that, you know, as soon as it's like it's 5 o'clock right now and it is dark. I can't do it. I'm gonna scream. And so I ordered a new sad therapy light which I used to have an old one, but it was destroyed by a flood in an apartment I used to have. So I got a new one, and I've been using it for 3 days, and it's like I really don't mind having my retinas blasted off if I'm gonna feel better later, and it's really strong. My only problem is I'm trying to figure out when to use it in the morning, because what I've been finding is that like at 2 to 3 in the morning right now, I am freaking wired. Um, and then I like, I'm a zombie in the morning trying to like get it going, because I'm too awake at night, which means I probably have to wake up a bit earlier than I'm used to just to get it right. Uh, I had streamer friends come in on Sunday, visit the city very quickly, and we weren't there for long, but like I went and got pizza with them, and then we went to the park, and I actually went outside and hugged people and had human contact, and then I went out today and I did some errands, and tomorrow I'm actually going to a cottage weekend with some of my childhood friends, and we're just gonna spend 2 days like just I don't know, making food and maybe having substances of I don't know. And anyway, um relaxing, yeah. And uh and so being social and stuff, that's great. So I'm just trying to push that. If there's one thing in the next 2 weeks I could really use help on, it would be um, I'm a master procrastinator. I am the best at it. If you ask me to come up with a list of how good I am at it, I will procrastinate on that, and you won't get it. So I understand that the reason why I do things at the very last second is because the pressure makes me get it done for sure, but also I am I I understand that like maybe we come from a society where a fear of repercussions or like not getting something done on time is what makes us put things off, as opposed to like positive reinforcement for just getting things done on a schedule. And if I could just find a way to make myself feel better about doing things as they come, instead of like, oh my god, somebody's coming to check out my apartment in a week, like, you know instead of like being up all night freaking out and scrubbing my apartment from head to toe. I would prefer to just have my apartment like, you know ready at any time or something, or like, oh no, maybe I gotta wash a glass, it's in the sink, like, oh, whoop-de-doo. But instead of like, I gotta mop the floor, I gotta clean the bathroom, I gotta do, I get that. So that's what I'm saying. I think that that kind of soft skill would translate to getting things done as a creator too, because if I want to put a TikTok out, I don't like putting them out late at night. I like putting them out like maybe noonish Eastern Standard Time or something, and um, that way the algorithm plays nicer. But then if it's like, well, why should I bother working at this now? I'm not gonna get it done till I don't need to upload it until tomorrow. Maybe I'll work on it in the morning. That's not gonna happen. So I know me. I mean, I'm lying to myself. So that's my
Okay.
recap.
So I heard that you're really concerned about procrastination and
Yeah.
that maybe you want some help in tackling that. Okay.
Yes, please.
I can go next. Um, so my week has been very chaotic. There was the League of Legends Worlds Finals on Saturday. That was happening in the city, so all sorts of friends came over. I had great seats. I had a good time, and then I'm also trying to get a pet. So I've been looking at puppies and kittens, and I was taking a look at a fostered puppy from a shelter. Came from a hoarding situation. Really like the puppy, so I've submitted my application and they've accepted it, so I'm getting ready to adopt. However, I did experience another person dying in my life, so I'm actually going to be flying out this weekend for their funeral and stuff. So things have gotten more complicated. The puppy is delayed. I have to arrange for my flight and like cancel plans. Yeah. And I'm just working every day. I felt like I haven't really I didn't stream for a while because I think I'm just really overwhelmed with a lot of things right now. So I'm taking a little break. But in terms of goals, I still have my one-on-one scheduled with my mentors. I actually have one right after this and a couple more so I can kind of formulate a plan on how to approach my career. And I think mid-December, my goal is to, get things settled down, get the puppy, maybe have some sort of very lenient part-time streaming schedule. Like after work is done, maybe I'll stream for like 2 hours at the very least, as well as establishing like a exercise routine. So yeah, those are my goals and my update.
Okay.
I can go. So this last week, let's see. I started my new job. I watched World Finals also this weekend, but also this weekend, I went to my job location because they were holding an event called the Smash Summit. And so yeah, I got to kind of like be on site while like the event was happening and stuff. It's just funny. Like I'm just super antisocial. Like my social battery is like a triple A battery. I don't know, even smaller, like a watch battery, right? Like I just don't do well around people, and so it was exhausting, but it was like it was exciting all rolled into one, I guess. And then yesterday was my first official day, and my homework was to kind of be aware of my emotions, and I can't say I had any strong feelings in any sort of direction. It was just like a lot of my job has been just catching up on, what tools they use. The thing, I guess maybe the one thing was like um, the company was bigger than I expected, especially like when I went on site and stuff. Like they have this giant facility. There was more moving parts than I realized, so there was more complexity to that, and yeah, so I just had to learn some new productivity tools that they use at the company, and it was just mostly me just trying to catch up and understand the flow of things so that I can actually start being able to actually do my job. But yeah, I can't say if I really felt anything towards any. Yeah, so
Okay.
it was hard for me to kind of digest that when I like sat down and tried to think about it,
Great.
but yeah, that's my week.
We can work with that.
Okay. Great.
I've sat here, I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. I've done a lot this last week. I've been pretty productive. Yeah, like I told you guys that I had PMDD, so it's the first week of the month, so I'm going to be really productive. It's like having like a it's like when I was younger, they were like, you might be bipolar, and I was like, this is too quick. So yeah, so it's the first week of the month, so I'm pretty productive. I'm away from home at the minute. I'm getting tattooed tomorrow, and I actually spent today where I had to like travel to be away, sending out lots of emails and just doing like loads of stuff that I should have done a while ago, but I didn't have that oomph in me to like contact companies and put myself out there and talk about myself in a certain way and be proud of what I do, which was really nice. It was a nice exercise to sit and draft emails and figure out what I am and what I do and how I'm like sharing that with other people. I did do the homework. I don't know if Zell read it. I think it was meant to be sent to Zell about fulfillment, because you asked me to write about fulfillment, which was really nice. I really enjoyed writing that. Really reminded me, and it's probably what maybe fueled me today to be really productive. I'm away from home in a different city. I could have spent the day wandering around the city. I've been here before, but instead I like used the time to sit down and just like write about myself, which is like something that I think maybe even a few weeks ago I might have said was really hard. And like I know I've said it recently, like I really like struggle with that. So yeah, I did that. What else have I done? I've been in a bit of pain with my back and stuff, but I've also been doing some yoga and just like looking after myself, making sure to give myself that little bit of time or space, even if it is doing like yoga in a hallway. You know, I'm practicing what I preach. Like sometimes I say to people, like, you're never too busy to like, you can always do some kind of practice for like yoga or like meditation. And I think I've got my head like out of a bit of a fuzz, and things feel a bit clearer, so it feels easier to, if I do have to do like yoga in a small space and make it work, then I can. And I'm actually hosting a yoga stream for Twitch next week, on the front page, which is exciting, and I get to invite like a bunch of other streamers and stuff to come and do yoga with me. And yeah, December goals. Hopefully I'll know when I'm moving by then, and hopefully I would be able to buy my house in Portugal. I guess it's a little bit unknown for me from there, so I don't want to be like arrive and have like pressure on myself to suddenly start creating content, because a lot's going to change for me by the time I get there, and some of my content is going to change a little bit because the property I'm buying needs a lot of work, and I think it'll be interesting like for people to see that develop as part of my content, which is something I've never done before, so it's kind of an unknown. So I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really know.
That's great. So, I want you to just, I want all y'all to kind of reflect for a moment on where people were. Forget about yourself. Don't think about yourself. I want y'all to like notice where people were when they started and where people are now. And it could be the same place. And like if each of y'all, if you've noticed something that's different, could be better, could be worse. But I'm curious if any of y'all feels like there's something that you could share with the group about someone else in the group and where they were when they started and where they are now.
I think for me, someone that stands out is Metric. Like I think early on, I kind of felt like Metric had much more like nervous energy that was kind of just like pouring out of him, and I feel like over the weeks, I feel like one, the comfort with us, but also feels like more comfort with himself as well, and like and I just notice also in just like how he speaks, like the choices that he makes while using his words are just different now. Like I feel like there's a lot less like the self jabs that we kind of talked about. Like I notice a lot less of those, and so it feels like there's a lot more self assuredness overall. That's just something that I've noticed.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say that Metric really stands out. When I first met you, you had a very Twitch streamer focused, like, I know that's what we are, but it was like this this whole like I'm like it felt like more anxious energy about just being a streamer in general. And now I feel like there's a confidence in who you are and what you want as
That
a
means a lot.
person.
Thank you so much. He leaned in. He leaned in. He was gonna say something. I was like, and then I backed away. I would say it's Kathy that really stands out to me. Like the first several sessions, people would feel like she wasn't saying anything, or that she was just more of an observer than a participant. And I think maybe is comfort, and getting like more comfortable with the group, or just being more, I don't know, she's opened up, and that's really cool to see, because I was kind of curious at the start of like, what are we going to learn about her, and by now it's I wouldn't have imagined. So whereas like sometimes I feel like maybe I actually talk too much, not in the sense of like taking up all the time, which maybe some people might think I do, but more like I can say too much, to the point where like, like, oh, maybe you didn't need to know that, but I understand now that like maybe it's not so much that she was afraid or she was intimidated, but maybe she's just taking her time to choose her words very carefully.
I like to share about Ruby. Maybe it's something that I missed before or whatnot, but the vibe that I got was, content creator, just doing the work, streaming, churning out content. But then as she kind of talks about the projects that she's undertaking, I don't know if this was already in development or she's opened up as well, but she's talking about being on front page, doing business deals on the back end, getting a house in Portugal. I think those are really great milestones to be working towards. Before, it just seems like I see this in a lot of streamers as well. They're just kind of in a rut. They're just, for StarCraft especially, you're just playing multiplayer over and over and over again. You don't really branch out or do variety, or some of them don't. And they kind of feel like poorly about themselves like that. But then with Ruby, I feel like she's really exploring her options. Really reaching or going through milestones in her life that are super important.
Also, Zell, you're cool.
I was gonna say everyone at the beginning as well. Like I feel like everyone's energy, like we've got to know each other, but I feel like everyone feels a little bit more settled in who they are.
My favorite thing about Zell is watching him get challenged by Dr. K, and you just see like these like rusty gears that he doesn't want to turn. They're just like screaming in there, like, "Oh God!" It's usually at the end of a session, and he's just like, "Oh God, I got to do this thing." No, and then he comes back like the next week, and he's like, "So I did the thing," and it's.
I did the thing. Now where's the answer?
Yeah.
Like...
So where was Zell looking for answers at the beginning?
I mean, definitely outside of himself.
Yeah, from you, from us.
He wanted solutions. He wanted the roadmap. He wanted
the agenda. So
Yeah.
what's the plan? And then
Yeah.
we're like, there's no plan.
Yeah.
And where is he looking for answers now? Be honest.
Do we answer that or Zell?
Yeah, no, it's not Zell. Anyone but Zell.
I think there's still a little bit of that.
You're
Yeah.
damn
Like-
right there is.
There's still a little bit of that. There's a little bit like the sneaking in that's like, oh, I can find this out. Like I realized that. I felt it. Like, but yeah, I've still got imprinted what Metric said, Zell's face at the end of last week's session. And when I was writing that whole document, that's the face I could see, was Zell going, fulfillment. Like, fulfillment.
Yeah. So I want to say, like, y'all have, I think this is what's so funny, is y'all have come such a long way that I think y'all have, even to a large degree for yourselves, forgotten where you started. So I leaned in because I was 100%. So 2 people gave Metric like really authentic praise. And I didn't think Metric could handle it. Like, honestly, I jumped in because I was like, don't fucking say it, Metric. You just take that compliment. You shovel it in your mouth and you eat it. Right?
Yeah, he didn't say a peep. He just took it.
He just took it. And then he was like, thank you, I appreciate that. And then he turned around and appreciated someone else. No snide comment. No, like, none of this other stuff. Like the Metric crap. Right? None of this, like, I don't understand why these people think I'm a decent human being. Like, what's wrong with them?
Metric crap is going to be a new tier 3 emote, just so you know.
And the other thing that's kind of wild about Metric is he's like, I don't know if you guys get this, but he's like living life now. Right? That's like, people are like, oh, there's like this vibe change. It's like, yeah, I hung out with people. Like, Metric, when we first met him, was like some zombie streamer living in his basement, like streaming and not sure what he was doing with his life. And he's like leaving the house twice. Right? And he still has his like nice, like, that's just part of who he is. He's a little bit sarcastic. He's like, I did it twice. Right? And that's like, he's always going to have that. That's part of who he is. And I think there's a healthy amount of self-deprecating humor. That's like kind of who he is. And he's like, oh yeah, and I'm hanging out with more friends this weekend. It's like, wait, what? I'm looking at a community manager jobs. I need to focus on procrastination. Like, yeah, I got to like put together my life. But like, he's actually living his life while he's thinking about putting together his life. I think with Kathy, I think, to kind of echo what other people sort of said, I think Kathy, it's kind of interesting because Kathy came here looking for some kind of help, and I don't think she actually sort of needed it. She's just doing it on her own. Right? So we talked a little bit about ambition and stuff like that. She shared some of her decision making. Is anyone here concerned that Kathy is going to struggle in terms of finding her way?
No.
She's going to do great. Right? And I there's still stuff that she's going to work on. But part of the reason that you were sort of coming up with, like, have we heard about Kathy talking about exercise before?
No.
Why is she thinking about exercise now? Why is that the concern that her brain generates?
I'm guessing it's because it's something away from work for herself. Like,
So I think a simple reason why people come up with new problems is because they're no longer worried about the old ones. Right? So I think Kathy seems like so she's got had a lot of life interfere with her, which we sort of, you know, we were there to try to help her with, but she's got it under control. So we're going to continue working on whatever she wants to work on. But I know it sounds kind of weird, but the reason that people don't have the same problem today that they had 12 weeks ago is because that shit got better. And so now we're going to help her with exercise if that's what she wants to do. Great. We're going to ask her a couple of questions about why do you want to stream for 2 hours a week? What does that mean to you? What is it worth to you? We're going to help her prioritize a little bit. And I'm going to punt this over to Metric so that he learns how to do this. He's going to help her, and then he's going to figure it out for himself. Okay? So we're going to talk to her a little about streaming and stuff, but I think it's awesome. I think when, you know, Ruby came in, she was like leaning heavily into the aligning of the chakras and trying to figure out like what energy she's got and how she needs to cultivate energy. And she's like, oh, by the way, and then she like tells us, hey, wait a second. I'm ambitious too. I have hopes and I have dreams and I have like shit that I want to do, and I'm actually a beast. Like, I'm not some woo. And sure, we're going to continue cultivating the energy, but she's doing some yoga. She's taking advantage of the good week that she's got. She's on Twitch front page. She's moving to Portugal. She made that good Instagram reel or whatever like a couple weeks ago.
I've been making Instagram reels every week for the last few weeks as well. Like, I left it after the good one, and then like a few weeks ago, I don't know, something clicked and was like, you need to keep doing this. You can't do it once.
Clicked. I think that's a great way to encapsulate how far each and every one of you has come. Stuff is clicking. You've always known it. Like Kathy's like, yeah, I'm going to meet with my mentors. We'll sort it out. I'm going to collect the right kind of information to help me figure out what the decision I need to make is. If she has any residual questions after those meetings that she wants to share with us, we're here to listen. Otherwise, if she wants to focus on exercise, we're going to help her with exercise because she's got the professional stuff handled. Some amount of work-life balance that she needs help with streaming StarCraft and stuff, we're going to be there for her. And Zell. Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to share though. I feel like the biggest thing for me is because I'm new to the city. It's like almost a little over 2 months, maybe making friends and lasting relationships. I think I have a really big problem with that. And that one, I can't figure it out.
Okay.
That's my other.
That's great, right? So once we're like, okay, Kathy, we can help you with exercise. She's like, wait a second. And
I have a plan for the exercise, yes.
Going back to what I think, I don't remember if it was Metric or I think it was Metric, right? And he's like, Kathy wouldn't have said that at the beginning. Like, especially if Dr. K is like, Dr. K is talking, right? And we are talking about how everyone has made progress. Kathy's like, hold on a second, wait, I'm going to interrupt. That interruptibility, I think, is really a sign of Kathy's growth. And so, absolutely, we're going to talk about friendships and relationships has been on my list of things to talk about, but we just haven't gotten around to it yet. And so, I'm glad you brought it up because I think it's a really important topic. And Zell came here looking for answers, and he's still looking for answers, but he's becoming increasingly frustrated and starting to realize that he may not be able to find them on the outside, and he's got to start looking within. He's trying to look within, and it's not really working too great. So now he's going to come with us, and he's going to ask us to tell him how to look within, and we're going to help him with that. But I think we've all seen where he was like, okay, like I need to figure out what the right answer is, and now what I'm hearing is I need to figure out what the right answer for me is. And I've recognized that for my whole life. I've looked to the outside for my solutions. Now I'm looking to the inside, but I haven't found any answers because I don't know how to look inside, and that's going to be a process. So we're going to talk about emotional awareness and stuff, okay? So like, I just want to say huge props to all of you because I think, and I'm sure y'all can feel it, like, right, the energy of people in this call is different. Like, Ruby was so supportive, but god damn, she kept so much crap on the inside, which like bubbled up here and there. Right? And she was like so busy supporting everybody else that like no one ever had time to support her, and you guys did an awesome job. Because that's not easy to do, by the way. Like, Ruby's really good at going invis. She's like this invisible healer that like is taking damage. You can't target her even if you want to throw a heal her way because she's invisible. So it's hard to do that. Like, she's really good at it. So I just want to say huge shout out to all of y'all. And what I'd love to do is frame a conversation today that's a little bit more directive, that ties in a few pieces. But before we do that, I think it's going to be good. But I just want to also give other people a chance to open things up, or like, do we really want to start talking about relationships and moving to a city or things like that? Otherwise, what I'm going to talk about is emotional awareness, procrastination, and maintaining momentum. But if anybody feels like they want to take the floor or want to ask about something or want to support something, then we can do that. It's your time.
I mean, I'm easy either way.
Okay. So in the absence of someone saying something, let's dive in. So first question is, why do we procrastinate? Actually, let's start with this. What is procrastination?
I think it's a messed up way of dealing with delayed gratification. Because I mean, I could like you know, do the thing now and then relax later. But I'd rather relax now and then just finish it as quickly as possible right before it has to be done. And at that point, I tell myself that like good is better than perfect, or like I don't have to. I can talk myself through it and just say like it's fine, it's fine. Like don't you only had so much time to do it, so
Okay. Anyone else want to add on to that?
I was gonna say I have a strange. Well, I have a different relationship with procrastination because I've been learning the difference between genuine procrastination and like my ADHD just like freezing me, and I've forgotten what it's called. I'm having a very airhead day.
ADHD paralysis is sometimes what
That's
people
it.
refer to
Yeah.
it as. Yeah.
There's like a difference for me. One literally feels like trying to get like as if someone put super glue on me and stuck me to something, and I need to physically rip my skin off like to get to do the thing. And then the other one I've realized is maybe my procrastination is like overwhelm, but maybe that might be ADHD as well. I don't know. Like I've just tried to, but yeah, it's not doing the thing you know you need to be doing right now and you should be doing because, and doing everything but that. Like I'll start a whole new project and do something else. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess to add on, it feels kind of like your brain's just moving into the path of least resistance, which is to not do the work in front of you and do the thing that you want to do instead. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it just comes back to that like fear of the blank page thing that I like mentioned a few weeks ago. That it's overwhelming to start, and it. Sorry, Kathy, if you're gonna say something. I just it was just the idea of like, I remember there's this book called The Artist's Way. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but yeah, it's a pretty cool book, and it's about how to like overcome being a blocked artist, but you can use it for a bunch of other things. It's just basically for like attaining a creative space, and the author, what's her name? I don't remember. She traces it back to the idea of like it's the fear of humiliation or the fear of failure, or basically we evolved from animals that were terrified of like wandering out into the field and then getting swooped up and picked up by an eagle or something and carried away. So it's we've taken those like survival instincts and we've rooted it down into like those instincts are still in us, and no, we're not going to die if I don't clean my fridge tomorrow, but the that fear gets manifested in this really weird way where I can put it off, I guess is something like that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, procrastination is just kind of putting things aside, not wanting to do it right now because maybe you have writer's block or you have anxiety about performing it. And I just feel like procrastination is worse because you keep thinking about it in the back of your mind, this growing feeling of dread. And every time I go through it and when I actually accomplish the task, I'm like, why didn't I do that? That wasn't so bad after all.
Okay.
I just like wasted. Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and screen share. Okay. So let's take a look at this. So this is going to be kind of like I don't want to give away the answer, but I'm going to ask y'all questions. So we're going to start with this phrase, doing everything but. So as you move towards the task that you are procrastinating on, what is your experience of that?
I can get really productive when I'm procrastinating. I don't know if that's like everyone else.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
you do literally all the other stuff, and then
okay.
yeah.
So let's say here's the task that you are procrastinating. So this is what happens, right? I'm going to go here and I'm going to do all these other things. So what happens within you if you move in this direction?
You feel like you're
Yeah.
neglecting the other things, or
Okay.
maybe, yeah, I don't know, maybe.
So neglect is what your mind tells you to shift you down here, right? But are you really neglecting those things? Is that really the reason that you're not doing this? So what happens within you when you move in this direction?
You're making a new problem.
Okay, right? So I'm going to call this resistance. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Right? So, and I think one way that, I don't know if that's exactly what metric meant, but what I'm saying, what I'm sort of envisioning is that as you experience this resistance, you create problem number 2. And if you're Ruby, you even solve problem number 2. Is that what you meant, metric, or did I misunderstand?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we also heard this path of least resistance, right? Where like, so that's what this stuff is, where we're gonna like move away from the resistance. Like we're gonna take the path of least resistance. And so now I'm gonna ask y'all, what do you think is the nature of the resistance that you experience when you procrastinate?
I think you just like, I don't know if this is the best way to put it, but I think you raise the stakes for yourself when you know there's a task that should be important. You create this like expectation of like why you should do it, and so like the task that you have to do suddenly becomes more daunting than you originally. Kind of like what Kathy said is like when you do it, you're like, oh shit, it wasn't that bad actually. But before you do it, you create these like, you put all these reasons behind why you have to do it, and suddenly it becomes this like mega important thing. And so I feel like our expectations raises the resistance to that task, and therefore we go to that path of least resistance to that other task that we have not built up those expectations for, and so we just naturally gravitate to those first.
Okay. So I drew something out as Zell was talking. I'm curious if y'all think this is an okay representation. So here's the resistance that we have to overcome. Here's where we are. And so Zell does this thing where he psychs himself up by raising the stakes of the task. If he can psych himself up, he can then overcome the barrier, right? If he can convince his mind that unless I do this, everything in my life will fall apart. That's how he gets himself to tackle the procrastination. Now, the downside is as you psych yourself out, you're going to start to feel overwhelmed. When do we tell ourselves, these are read my mind questions, when do we tell ourselves it's fine? What is the internal experience of a human being who tells themselves it's fine?
I mean,
like
if I'm
coping.
yeah.
Copium. When do we use copium? What is the internal experience of someone who's taken a hit of the copium?
They feel better. With the
They
copium.
feel better, but what happens? What is my state that prompts the copium?
Denial.
Okay.
That's what I see it as, but like
That's what the copium is, right?
right.
So what is the state of the person prior to the smoking of the copium?
Anxious.
Absolutely, right? So now we're talking about anxious, the growing fear of dread. Look at that. Survival instinct. Which, y'all know, this is something you may not know. Do y'all know which parts of the brain our survival instincts come from? It's part of our brain called the amygdala. Do you know what else comes from our amygdala? Fear. The fear center of our brain is the survival center of our brain. So there are other reasons that we procrastinate, but the main reason that we procrastinate, like what's the common thread between all of this stuff? It's emotion. So when you start to approach a procrastinating task, now I'm going to put out a hypothesis, okay? What you feel is an upwelling of emotion. That's the actual resistance. And then like you do all kinds of stuff, but if you look at the common thread here, this is emotion. This is why you say to yourself, it's fine. Feeling overwhelmed is emotion. Doing everything but is avoiding this emotion, because as you move in this direction, there's going to be a sense of emotion. Even psyching yourself up is using one bad emotion to overcome another bad emotion. Would you agree, Zell?
Yeah.
You feel awful, even when you do this. It works, but it's a very polluting form of energy. And then y'all even used a lot of like the survival instinct, like that's emotions, my friends. You know, right? Like if I'm surviving, it's like, it's panic. I loved what Kathy said, growing feeling of dread. Not only is it dread, it's dread that's rapid expanding across the map. And then what do you feel? You feel overwhelmed. Because the Zerg hordes are invading. And they're growing all over the place. So there are actually a couple of different reasons that we procrastinate. One, and this has to do more with ADHD, is operational procrastination. So sometimes the reason that we procrastinate is because our brains are not able to break apart a complex task into steps. So we don't know how to get started. This is what Metric kind of refers to as the fear of the blank page. So if I ask someone, or if someone asks, or if someone says, oh, you know, like, I need to find a job. A job is not something you can find. Does that make sense? Like, you don't walk down the street and like, oh, look, there's a loot box that has a job inside. That's not how it works. Finding a job involves making a resume, you know, maybe cover letters, finding open positions, maybe talking with mentors, networking, applying, interviewing, negotiating. And on some level, I'm pretty sure that Metric understands all of these things. The problem is that when his brain is like, when he's like, I need to find a job, there's a part of his brain that's like, we don't know how to negotiate a salary. I'm just making assumptions here.
Actually, I don't.
Right? And so you know vaguely that you're going to need to do that. So what does his brain tell him? My brain tells him, don't find a job now, learn how to negotiate first and learn how to do all these things first and then find a job. You need to be perfect before you start, right, Metric?
Right.
So there is operational procrastination. We also know from ADHD, research on ADHD, for example, that this is a big part of why people with ADHD get into ADHD paralysis. That's not entirely what we're talking about today, but we sort of know that a solution to procrastination is to break apart a task into small steps that your mind can actually manage.
I know you're not exactly diagnosing me, but is that something that I should possibly look into? Just because I'm not being treated for that. So it makes me wonder.
Is it worthwhile to get evaluated? Sure.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is a problem right now in general where people are taking normal difficulties and attributing them to ADHD.
Right.
Because I do think that all of our brains, the current influence of technology shortens our attention span and weakens our frontal lobes, which moves us in the direction of ADHD. Okay? Ruby, you wanted to say something?
I was going to ask a question. Can this be for like really, really simple things? Like, I feel like everyone's like procrastinating like huge things. I'll procrastinate like it feels like what you were saying about the job thing, but I find it hard to I don't know, something really simple, like clean something or do something. And I kind of have to like break everything down, like you were saying, to get to doing it because it's overwhelming. Just like I tidy my room. I guess like Metric kind of said that about procrastination as well.
Yeah, so the first thing to understand is when you say simple thing, there's a value judgment. So I'd say, does tidy your room? What are the steps involved with tidying your room? First question is, does tidying your room feel overwhelming?
Sometimes.
Yes, because I know that I might start doing a lot of other things.
Okay. Right?
'Cause I
So if the
yeah.
answer is yes, so what are the steps of tidying your room?
Picking things up.
Well, you gotta have somewhere to put them too. So
Right? So,
otherwise you just moving stuff.
spot on, Ruby. So, like, this is actually something, cleaning is a really good example of this. Picking things up is not tidying your room. Oh, look, I picked a thing up. Oh, look, I picked another thing up. Does this mean I'm tidying my room? So, this has been very well researched, especially in kids and people with ADHD. So, if you look at the frontal lobe, what's the difference between a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 15-year-old, or even a 25 or 35-year-old? So you tell the 2-year-old, clean your room, they can't do that. You tell the 2-year-old, put all of the books in the room on the shelf. They can do that, maybe. Put this book on the shelf, a 2-year-old can do. A 4-year-old can put all of their books away, put all their toys away, etc., etc. But you have to tell them each task. And then eventually our frontal lobes get to the point where we can take an abstract task and we're able to operationalize it. Now, my money is that Kathy can actually find a job without operationalizing it. Because I think she's sort of not instinctively, through some amount of effort and work, she's already figured out how to operationalize it. So it's easier for her than it would be for some of us. That's just my assessment. Could be correct, could be incorrect. Right? But I would venture that if Kathy got laid off tomorrow, would she feel bad? I'm sure. Would she panic a little bit? Sure. But I think that she'd know how to find another job. I think she'd land on her feet. Is that fair, Kathy?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have plans.
Exactly. Right? So her brain is like really good at like breaking this thing apart. And each of us brings different stuff to the table. It's not that, so that's why we do. So like group is like, it's kind of like a raid group, right? Some of us are DPS, some of us are tanks, some of us are healers. And we each bring something else to the table. And what we're going to do is share that knowledge and work on problems together so that each one can benefit from everybody else. So this is operational procrastination. The other thing though that we're talking, so in terms of simple tasks, yes, Ruby, because I don't think the task is actually simple. It's simple because a neurotypical person's brain is able to operationalize it easily. Does that make sense? So finding a job for Kathy is a simple task because she knows how to operationalize it. It's not that certain tasks are simple or aren't simple. Balancing someone's chakras is not simple for Kathy. It's simple for you. Do you get that?
Mm-hmm.
So if I was like, Ruby, balance someone's chakras, you'd be like, okay, let's start with this. Like, I'm going to do some kind of energy assessment. Then I'm going to prescribe some yoga. And then I'm going to give you this kind of diet and then drink this tea. And you're able to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And your brain just knows how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simple tasks. Can this be a problem? Absolutely. It's just what our brain knows how to do or doesn't know how to do. Okay? Next thing about procrastination is that, so we talked about operational procrastination. Next thing we're going to talk about is procrastination as essentially emotions. So as we move towards a task, certain emotions come up. And until we're able to deal with those emotions, so we tend to deal with those emotions in one of two ways. So this wall is some kind of negative emotion. So so procrastination, first of all, the thing to understand is that it's not a problem, it's actually a solution. It's a task accomplishing solution. Does that make sense? When you procrastinate, you wait till the last minute to get things done. But that also is an energy conservation strategy because procrastination is really efficient. Like my brain has two choices. I can study 4 hours a week for a whole semester and I can get an A, or I can study for 12 hours before the test and get a B. Which one is a better use of my energy? Think about all the fun stuff. Like I don't have to worry about this test for 80 days and I can just panic about it for 24 hours and I'll be okay. Right? It's actually a success strategy. It's not a problem. It's a solution. The other way that we deal with emotional procrastination is we let other negative emotions build up. So this is panic, right? So our panic level is low. Here's day 20. Here's day 40. Here's day 50. Here's day 52. And then suddenly the panic has risen so great that we have this conflict of emotion within us. And then the panic overwhelms the whatever crap that you're afraid of, like, oh my God, like I need to get an A, other kinds of emotions you have. Does that make sense? So we use one negative emotion to like overcome other negative emotions.
So like in school, I dealt with a lot of severe mental health problems and would be hospitalized and stuff like that. And when I was writing an exam or writing a term paper or something, I would actually just cope by telling myself, if I fail this, I can just unalive myself. And that's how I like comforted myself against that fear. And I realized that like, that's just, yeah, like my failure, like I was like, that's my coping with failure was I could just die.
Right?
Yeah.
You can hit the reset button.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but once again, the key thing there, I know it's a shocking thing. I don't mean to minimize the experience of suffering that you must have gone through, but I'm going to keep my eye on the prize, which is fair. In order to cope, what did you have to be feeling, right? Does that make sense?
Very, yeah. So just
so
like,
if we want to get through procrastination, we need to have greater emotional awareness, and we need to be able to operationalize. And given what Zell's homework was, and the fact that he thinks he failed it, which he actually didn't fail it. Not fail, but he's like, I didn't notice any emotion. you just don't know what they look like, so we're going to help you with that. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to dive now a little bit into Zell. I'm going to give you all a chance to ask questions, and otherwise we're going to go into Zell. And then we're going to understand how to develop some emotional awareness. And once we understand how to develop emotional awareness, what I want y'all to do if you're procrastinating and we'll get to that in a second. But any questions about this model so far? Okay. And then towards the end, we're going to lean into Ruby a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about Ruby right now is crushing it, right? What's going to happen next week?
You're overlaid on Ruby, by the way.
Am I?
Yeah.
For everyone?
I think so.
Zal, are you seeing Ruby? Kathy, you seeing Ruby?
No, like on your stream.
Huh?
Okay.
Oh.
They don't need to see
whoops. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. Sorry.
Oh.
So, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, I have we're going to try to help Ruby set up some way to maintain momentum. So there's not just procrastination in terms of getting started, because remember that some of y'all can get started, or Ruby's problem is not necessarily getting started, although to a certain degree it is, because I think she starts too much, but also in terms of how to maintain that. And we're going to talk a little bit about emotions kind of through this process, okay? So any questions? Okay. So, Zell, you said that you didn't notice any emotions, right?
Yeah, and just for context, I think I'm somebody who has, for better or worse, like been like I'm very non-emotive, right? Like
Yeah.
I think in general either I'm just naturally not very emotional, or I've learned to just be very suppressive of my emotions, but I generally am not an emotional person. So I just want to throw that out there for
Sure.
context.
So let me ask you something. You said that you went to work or something to get oriented, or there was some kind of event, right?
Yeah.
And you said that your social battery was drained.
Yeah.
What is that? Tell me about that.
Well, I just don't really talk to people in general. Like so when I'm thrust into a situation, usually like in small groups where there's like a like forced interaction points. Let's say you're playing video games with someone. There's a video game that you can play together, then that's fine. Or if you're in a, again, like a small group setting, but when it's like 30 people, 40 people in a room that are just kind of milling about, I just kind of sit in a corner and I just, I just sit there because that's easier to do.
Okay. And so let me ask you something. As you move towards interacting with another human being, what would happen within you?
Oh, I curl up like tension, I guess.
Tension? Where do you feel that?
I guess that's just fear. I don't know. I guess that's something like even as a kid, I just like my dad would be like, ask the restaurant for more napkins, and I'd be like, please don't make me do this, Dad, please. Anything but
Yeah.
that.
This is
Yeah.
really funny. Asking for napkins. Oh my God, Zell. It's such a good joke. Look at how much you're smiling. Oh my God, asking for napkins. I haven't heard such a good joke in a long time. Why are you smiling right now?
I mean, because I understand that like it's something that is personal to me, and I understand that
Close
like
your eyes.
okay.
What are you feeling right now?
I feel. I mean, I feel fine. I don't. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're laughing.
Yeah.
So here's what I think is going on. Okay. So I think that your experience of tiredness is emotion. So I think when you go to a social setting, there are all kinds of emotions that start to rise up. And why is it that you're not aware of them, Zell? What are you doing to those emotions as they rise up?
I guess in this case, laugh them off.
You're laughing them off here. Are you sitting there in the corner of a room of 40 people laughing by yourself?
Probably not.
What are you doing?
No. I suppress them, I guess.
Absolutely. And when you spend, how long were you there in a room of 30 people?
I don't know, like 2 hours.
Okay. So in your brain, there are a bunch of minions. And they're like, oh my God, did y'all catch this word that he used? Thrust. Right? What is Zell was thrust
Against his
into.
will.
Huh?
It was against his will.
Absolutely. Right? So here we are. As we move towards the thing, we gain resistance, but Zell didn't have a choice. What did they do? They fucking pushed his ass towards it. One word tells me everything we need to know. There's absolutely emotion there. Did he say, I got to meet all the new people I'm working with? No. Do you see that, Zell?
Yeah.
You don't get thrust into... I mean, right now, you're being thrust into this. He's like, I didn't sign up for this. Okay, so a couple of things to understand. One is that when you are very good at suppressing your emotions interactions in which you experience a lot of emotions will leave you feeling tired. So tiredness is actually going to be your window into emotion. What people don't realize is tiredness is the mother of all umbrella emotions. So I'll give you all an example. I have had a patient who disliked going home for the holidays, and maybe y'all can empathize with this, maybe you can't. They had a parent that would call them. They see who's calling, and they immediately go, and you don't want to answer the phone. Has this ever happened to you? So y'all help me understand physiologically. I know y'all aren't medical doctors, but physiologically, how does a sound on a cell phone result in a feeling of fatigue? Like, I understand that running a 26-mile marathon makes people feel tired. How does your phone ringing make people feel tired? Like, what's going on there? Is it a huge physiologic? Is like your heart rate going through the roof? Like, what's going on? Yeah, Ruby?
The emotions attached to seeing that person's name and the expectations of what's going to come next causes a reaction within you, and that will be physical. You won't even realize it, but it will be physical somewhere within you, and it's tiring. It's taking energy.
Yeah, so let me ask y'all a question. What is the purpose? This is a hard question, okay? What is the purpose of feeling tired? Because we think about it as a bad thing, right?
It's your body telling you to rest and to look after yourself.
That's it
Preserve.
sometimes. But when I get a call on a cell phone, is that my body telling me, like, I understand if I went for an 8-hour run, my body's like, oh, I feel exhausted, I should really lay down. Or if I've worked for 12 hours today, my body's like, oh, I feel exhausted, I should lay down. I'm with you there. When I get a call on a cell phone, does that mean that I should lay down for a nap?
Okay, I guess it's more your mind trying to save you
There we
from
go.
that experience.
So tiredness is our body's way or our mind's way to keep us from engaging in a behavior. Do y'all see that? It's our body's because literally what is it doing in that moment? It's saying, don't do this. And as you pick up the phone, as your finger goes on the answer button, the feeling of tiredness will increase because it's our body's way of saying, don't do it. And then if someone else 30 seconds later picks up the phone, it's one of Metric's friends who they're going to go and have a very healthy weekend in the cottage or whatever that he was talking about. Is it tired then?
I'm actually excited.
Right? But weird. So that's so weird. It's answering a phone call. Isn't the energy investment the same? So tiredness is actually a signal from our body. It's the way that our body or mind tries to keep us from engaging in a behavior. So for you, and I think this is I think we'll see procrastination here where if you have to go meet 30 or 40 people, when do you start you didn't realize you were going to meet 30 or 40 people. Is that fair?
I mean, so the thing is, at the event, I met some of the people that I'm working with, but it was also a fairly public event. So it's
Thrust.
I knew there was going to be a lot of people there, but I figured it was a good idea to go anyway.
Okay, hold on a second. Another sentence. There were going to be a lot of people there. So now we're going to lean on y'all, okay? It was a good idea to go anyway. Why does he tack on the word anyway at the end of the sentence?
He had a choice, I guess. He went anyway. He
yeah,
could
but
have not gone.
why wouldn't he say you kind of get what I'm saying? Maybe Zell has it.
Yeah, because obviously I don't I know that I'm basically being I don't want to go, but I'm going to do it anyways, right?
Exactly.
So
y'all see that?
Yeah.
I have to do it anyway. I might as well do it anyway. But that implies that he doesn't actually want to go. Did you want to go?
I was conflicted.
So what was the conflict?
Yeah, I don't know. People.
So I'll explain this to you, Zell, because you like answers, right, bro? And
Yeah.
y'all, and the rest of y'all, I'm going to be a little bit, once again, hyperbolic or inflammatory for the sake of the memes. People, when I ask you what is the conflict, people is not an answer you can give me. That's not on the multiple choice. So like, you get that? So this is people's not an answer, man.
I think it is. I actually used that answer today to someone, but no.
So I think it's honestly, it's a real answer, but you see what I'm saying? This is a problem of a lack of resolution. So there's a conflict. And as we tunnel down into it, like, what was the conflict? What about the people?
I guess it's the it's the interaction with the people, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the interaction with the people is the reason to not go. Correct? Because a conflict
Yeah.
means that we've got two opposing things. So what are the reasons? So you're thinking, okay, there's this event. What are the reasons to go? Why is your mind telling you, hey, we should do this?
To meet some coworkers ahead of time and to experience this event from a work standpoint, and also, it is a cool event to be at. Like if you play this game, which this event is for, like that's like a place that you would want to go if you play that game. It's
Okay.
kind of like going to World Finals for League if you're a League of Legends player.
Sure. So the smile that I saw from Zell there was one of genuine excitement when he was talking about going. Did y'all see that smile? Is that it's actually cool to go? Like, you think it's cool to go to that thing, Zell?
Yeah.
So that's
for
the
sure.
reason to go. The reason to not go is interacting with the people. Right?
Yeah.
So here's the question. How does that make you feel?
It's just conflicted, right? Like,
When you think about interacting with the people, how does that part make you feel?
I don't want to call it fear because it's not like I have a fear of meeting people. It's not even anxiety necessarily, because like, maybe it is, and like maybe it is anxiety, and I'm just like, when I do meet people in like a professional setting or whatever, I just and compress it down, and I can pretend to be a people person for when I need to be. But yeah, maybe it is anxiety, I guess.
Does anyone else have any idea? Like, can y'all relate to what Zell is experiencing, and have y'all felt that way in the past?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What can y'all tell us about that? Right? So now that Zell, we've reached a point where Zell is has some insight, but now what we're going to do. So remember that one of Zell's strengths is that he's very analytical, but he's a little bit having trouble with himself. So if someone else can share an experience about something similar, I think Zell will learn a lot from it. But by the way, do y'all know what's going on with Zell? Like, what's your instinct here?
He doesn't know what to talk about with people in that setting. Maybe you feel unprepared or something. Like you're very put on the spot. Do you struggle to start conversation? Are they clicky? Or were you just kind of hanging out on your own, just vibing and watching the show?
Yeah, I think that specific case is complicated, but I think in general, I'm somebody who doesn't want to impose necessarily. So like if I'm fine doing my own thing, watching the event, let's say, like I'm fine doing that, and to talk to other people feels like I think that's generally how I am. Is
You feel like you're bothering them if you talk to them?
Potentially, yeah.
Do you do that thing where you're in the shower and you think about how that thing could have gone better?
Not really. Like I don't feel like I generally don't feel like, I could have said that thing or whatever. I usually kind of get over it, Like I don't think because like I think this is like something that people kind of tend to point at like a self-esteem thing or something like that. It's not like I have this problem of like feeling like, oh, I'm not worth their time or something. I don't think. I don't like logically speaking, I don't think that's how I feel about it, but um yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I just yeah.
I can relate to so much that I don't know where to start. You see me sitting here going,
Ruby, does a story come to mind?
kind of, yeah. Like, I've kind of put a story in my own head about it as well. That I find it really, I don't know if it's the same for everyone else, but I find it really hard to have small talk. And a lot of these events that I feel that I should go to because I'm in this streaming space are not very related to me. So maybe it's slightly different for me because I'll end up at like a gaming convention just because there's other streamer friends there and I do game like off stream, but I get very discounted, or that maybe that's in my head that I've got discounted from being involved. And so then I feel the same as Zell, like going into a group that I'm not going to add anything to the conversation, or that yeah, like I just don't, I can't, I find it hard to relate to people. And I was also thinking while Zell was speaking, like how this whole experience, I would probably have never gone up to someone like Zell and expected to have anything in common with them. And then this whole experience, we've found like lots of weird, like, well, lots of common ground because we're human beings and we're going to have that. But yeah, like I find events exhausting. I don't want to go. I don't like, I love people and I don't like going with lots of people. I'm very like, I know that sounds like exactly the same thing, but I think Dr. K understands what I mean.
I think everyone
Like I
understands
really,
what you mean.
yeah, like I like company, I like people, I like sharing things with people. But I find these kind of events have, I guess, an expectation, but maybe that's an expectation I've built up from myself. Just yeah, I find it hard.
So I used to be really intimidated by.
Hold on a second, Metric.
Oh, sorry.
What are y'all seeing in Zell's face? Sorry, Zell. I keep on pointing out your face. But did you guys notice his facial expression as Ruby was talking? Anyway.
I was looking at Ruby.
Okay.
I was trying to think.
I'm actually, Metric, before we get to you, I also noticed
yeah.
a reaction in Kathy's face. Kathy, was there something that you were thinking about or something that you want to share? I kind of noticed like a grin for you too.
I was just thinking I'm kind of the opposite.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I put myself in group and individual situations. Like, yeah, sometimes when I go to events like Worlds, I have friends and stuff that I can meet up with. But there's other events that sometimes I can't find friends to come with me. So I just go by myself and I have a good time.
Okay.
It can be a little scary sometimes, especially as a woman out there by myself. So I have to be very careful about, random people talking to me. But yeah, I think I try to go with try to be like optimistic, like have a good attitude, like, oh, I'm here for like a show or something, or if someone's like talking about the show, then I'm going to engage in conversation. Yeah, I guess I'm more like exploratory like that.
So sorry.
Sorry.
I used to be like super intimidated. I would not be able to go up to somebody and talk, or like if I was in a room with people I didn't know, I wouldn't be able to say a thing. And I would just eventually find a way to like peace out early. But a few years ago, I started going to, under one of my therapist's advice, he said, you know what, raise your confidence? Toastmasters. If you're not familiar with Toastmasters, it's they teach you public speaking. And basically it could just be like going up in front of a group of people and telling a joke, to like actually giving a 5-minute speech or 10-minute speech on something. And eventually I did speaking competitions and stuff too, and it was actually pretty fun. I did an entire speech about my cat to like 300 people. And then you start off small, and when you see people join the club, because it meets like once a week or whatever, they're like super terrified to even stand up and say hi. And then you see them like develop in like just a couple months to just they can do anything in just talk. And so like I think it was like 2017, I went to my first like Twitch streamer meetup, and there were 300 people there, and I had no clue who anyone was. And I was wearing this N7 hoodie from Mass Effect, and this one girl walked up to me and she said, "I love your hoodie." And immediately, like, I'm still friends with her to this day. And I met so many people through her, and I was just able to talk to just about anyone. And I went to like TwitchCon 2017 a couple months later, and I went with a couple people I knew, but I spent most days just wandering around on my own, and I was able to just walk up to anyone and say, "Hi, I'm so and so," and shake their hand, and it didn't matter if they were like someone I've never seen before, and maybe they only stream to their bot, or if they stream to 10,000 people or something like that. It didn't bother me, and I think it just came down to just getting over the idea that it doesn't matter who I'm talking to, because there's just a living, breathing person, unless they're like a lizard wearing human skin, in which case that's terrifying. But yeah, I needed an actual program to raise my confidence in that manner, and the only reason why I stopped going was because of COVID. So
I just want to add, if someone is like bothered when you go up to them and you're like, "Oh, hi, I'm so and so," like especially at a work event or something, or like a gaming convention, and they're like pissed off that you're talking to them, then I feel like the issue is on them.
oh
Now,
yeah,
if it keeps happening over and over again, then you're like, okay, maybe my breath stinks, or my
yeah.
approach is weird or something. But yeah,
And I
that's how I
feel like
feel about
having
it.
like a hook, like, I mean, my hoodie, like, that stood out. When I went to my first TwitchCon, I was so nervous. I wore a dress shirt and tie every day at the convention. And I was just like, I'm gonna stand out this way. And people are like, "I love your tie," because I wore funky ties every day. And that was my thing. Now I just wear funky socks. I try not to overdo it. But like that's that's my hook. Is I think there's like a sitcom where somebody just had like a claw for a hand or something, and they tried to make that their interesting hook. I don't remember which sitcom that was. That was it.
Zell, what are you kind of taking away from what your colleagues are sharing?
I don't think I really relate that much. I think, um, like when Ruby was saying like the like small talk and stuff, I was kind of like, I'm fine with it. Like, for example, at the event, a person approached me and talked to me about their experience in Smash. We talked and played some like I once the engagement happens, the first like primary engagement, like it's fine. Like I hosted a talk show, so like I understand how like interviews go, and like I use a lot of that kind of knowledge of conversation to carry myself in even casual settings, and like that's totally fine, and that works for me. And I think Kathy, I think I am kind of similar to, like, if I really want to go to something, like most likely I'll try to drag my friends to go. But if no one wants to go, like I'll figure it out myself. That's fine. And then with what Metric was saying about, like, I think the difference between kind of me and Metric there is that, like, there isn't a part of me that wants to talk to other people. So it's not like I have a fear of like introducing myself at like a convention or talking. Like, I don't have a fear of public speaking or anything like that. It's just like there isn't a desire for me in the first place to want to interact. Like, I'm just like a cave troll that just lives in my little cave troll area, and I enjoy it there. And sometimes I'm forced to go outside, and I have learned to adapt. I think, like, in general, like, I'm just I've always just been kind of a chameleon person, like regardless of how I am and how I feel, like I see the expression. And so like I am somebody who observes, takes into account the situation that I'm in, and then I turn myself into the person that I think is okay in that situation, right? Like that's just it's like yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, just in the interest of time, I'm going to leave y'all with something here. So, the first thing, Zell, is that I'm going to actually ask your colleagues, what do y'all think? So, when Zell shows up, okay, so now, like, he's talking, someone was joking about, lizards and human skin. And so there are those, and then there's also Zell, right, who's a chameleon who pretends to be a human. So, what do y'all think is the energy investment of going to a new place and meeting a bunch of people for Zell?
Not a lot of energy, or it's being detracted from suppression.
Okay.
I was going to say I can relate because even though that's how I feel about things, I do go and talk to people. I do, and I will go to things on my own, and I can stand up in front of people and talk, and I will appear normal to everyone. So, and be able to have those small conversations. So I feel like Zell's putting a lot of energy into being how he feels he should be for those situations.
So I'm curious, Zell, do you think that if you were to see these same 30 or 40 people 2 more times, that it would be easier for you to go?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So are you kind of going there and like doing reconnaissance the first time and trying to figure out, okay, like what sort of mask do I need to put on?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Okay.
I think just that's how I am is like,
Sure.
how do people talk? What is their style of language? How do they interact with each other?
Sure.
Like
So
that is
we're
yeah.
scoping things out. We're doing recon about how to be human here. So I think that this is both helpful and challenging. So here's the question that I've got. So 2 questions for you, Zell. One is, and this kind of goes for all of y'all as well. If you find yourself, so I'm recognizing that each of y'all has a different manifestation of potentially difficulty within groups, right? So one of the interesting thing about groups is that even though Zell's like, yeah, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. But what we've done is map out. So the first thing is we've learned a lot about everybody else, right? Because like now I want to ask Metric, like, Metric, tell me about what you tell yourself in the shower. Right.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
right. So this is what's cool about group is that if we, let's say next time we meet, we're going to talk about relationships and meeting people, which by the way is a goal of Kathy's. So we're going to just pick this up next time we meet. We'll sort of have an idea of where everyone is and we can help people get to their goals. But a couple things for y'all to consider. First is, Zell, why did you have to learn how to be a chameleon in the first place?
Yeah, so as I grow up and get older, I realize how atypical I am in my upbringing, and it was only like basically it's become a survival instinct to do so to fit in. Like I was, a first generation Korean in I grew up in the Midwest in predominantly white areas. I learned how to mask myself there. Basically all these different social environments that I've been in, I've realized how different I am, and like it's just become second nature to me to learn how to do that.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say is that generally speaking, it's been my observation working with a lot of people that the more you become a chameleon, the more you lose touch with yourself. Right? So now we get back to like, we understand a lot of things about Zell. Because what does he want? He doesn't know because he's spent his whole life trying to suppress it and trying to be what other people want him to be, which, by the way, we already figured out a while ago, right? So this is what's cool about like understanding things about ourselves is we will start to realize that this understanding about Zell is not just about his career. It's also about his social situations. heaven forbid we haven't touched this time bomb yet, and maybe we never will, but like even as romantic relationships, does he have to be what his partner wants him to be? How does he start to advocate for who he is? Right? And this is also kind of the advantage, like the disadvantage is that like this is going to show up in a lot of dimensions of his life. The advantage is if you really think about it, y'all can help Zell make friends at parties, figure out what he wants to do in his life, and succeed in love. That's the
I'll
stakes.
wingman for you anytime. I got you, buddy.
I appreciate it. Ditto.
So very practically, Zell, what I'd say for you is I'd give you two kind of points of direction. One is to think a little bit about what are you pushing down when you're in these situations. So tiredness is going to be the key to unlocking emotions. So when you feel tired, like recognize that's your body and brain's, mind's emotional, because like it doesn't, you suppress the feeling of the emotion, but like that tiredness is not physiologic. Does that make sense? Like it's not physically exhausting to go stand in a room of 30 people. It's just as exhausting to stand in a room by yourself. Standing is standing. So that's an emotional exhaustion that you're experiencing. That goes for everyone out there who's listening as well. This also, the second thing is I would start to see if there's the right one page about the earliest memory you can think of where you learned the importance of being a chameleon. Okay? I want a story, not an analysis. Metric for you, we're going to build on this emotional awareness as well. So your struggle is procrastination. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is the next time you're procrastinating on a task, don't necessarily do the task, although if you do, that's fine. But what I really want you to pay attention to is like, as you move towards the task, what's the resistance you experience? And try to jot down what your experience of it is.
Okay.
And you're gonna find like one of two things. If it's kind of like, I don't know where to get started, or it's going to be some kind of emotion. So see if you can figure out, is this like operational, or is it like some emotions are coming up, which are telling me to like not do this? Ruby, in your case, I'm going to sort of speed run something, but since you're very productive this week and you've got ADHD, there's evidence that shows that people who are ADHD are stimulus oriented, which means that your capacity to do work, the worse you feel, the more external prompters you're going to need to do stuff. Does that make sense?
Kinda, yeah.
So you can be self-motivating when you feel good.
Yeah.
But in order to do things when you feel bad or your ADHD is more active, you're going to need inbound prompts for you to get to do stuff.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense? So like, even if you're not feeling great, I think you're going to do fine for your yoga stream. It'll be hard to get started, but once you get started, but if you weren't doing that yoga stream on the Twitch front page, you wouldn't stream that day. Does that make sense? Or did I say too much?
No, I'd stream no matter what.
Okay. So no matter what, but the you'd force yourself to stream, but the more inbound stimulus you get, the more likely you are to do stuff, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I know when I need that, because some of my poor moderators get like a whole day of thoughts, and they're literally saying do the thing in between every sentence because I'm just looking for.
So what I want you to really think about is if you've been very productive over the last week, try to think a little bit about. So you're sending out a lot of emails, which means like you're hitting a lot of tennis balls. And what's going to happen is those balls are going to start coming across the net back at you. So if you've got a cyclic motivational style, one thing that can be really useful, and this goes for all y'all as well, is to think a little bit about how can I send something out that will then evoke my motivation when it comes back. And when you've got a burst of motivation, like for Metric, when it's like 3 a.m. and he's feeling very motivated, can you send out a bunch of outgoing comms that will start trickling in over the course of the next week and kind of keep you on task? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy, for you, I think what would be really great is if you could frame what your challenge is so that when you come in next week, you can share with us what the challenge that you face in terms of developing relationships and friendships and whatever is. So like give us a problem that we can all kind of chew on together. Does that sound good?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Everybody understand? So just to kind of summarize, emotional awareness is where we're going to start. Pay attention to tiredness and things like that. That can also lead into procrastination. So if you're procrastinating on a task, even something like exercise, Kathy, you can kind of toy around with this. Are there emotions that come up when you exercise or when you're thinking about exercise? Do you feel preemptively tired? Right? When you're like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. And so as you tunnel down into that tiredness, you may discover an emotion. So if there's something there that you can like go through that process, and then maybe, you know, we can all work together to sort of understand the relationship between procrastination, feeling tired, and what the emotion actually is. Okay? All right. Strong work, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
all.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.
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 Okay. So that applies for all y'all as well. Wow, so dark now. And who should we raid, chat? So a couple of things to keep in mind. So I want y'all to really understand this principle. Like, this is really important. That first of all, if you struggle to find your emotions, the feeling of tiredness can be a wonderful door to your emotions, because what you're going to feel is tired, because you don't know how to like name what's underneath. And what is the feeling of tiredness? It can sometimes be you warring with your emotions, and as you suppress them, you feel drained. As you feel drained, as you're suppressing it, because you're not going to be able to identify the emotion, all you're going to feel at the end of that is tired. So use tiredness as the window to discover, okay, what's the actual emotion that I'm feeling? And I love the way that people sort of tossed out these different things like procrastination and stuff, because this is the other thing. When you think about procrastinating, when you're thinking about the task that you're supposed to do, when you are procrastinating, how do you feel? You feel tired. The thought of doing it makes you tired. And so then it's like, okay, hold on a second. Why is the thought of doing this making me tired? And as you tunnel down into that, you will find the emotion. The really cool thing is, as you discover the emotion, you start working with that, it'll start melting away, and then you will be able to do the task. Okay? And then later on, we can also sort of think a little bit about, like, the last thing we had to really speed run for Ruby's sake, so hopefully we'll get a chance to really dive into that. But then remember that procrastination is just getting started, and then there's also a way to develop a process for you to stay on top of things once the task gets started, which is a slightly different issue. Okay? Okay, suggestions on who to raid? Yeah, so Awkward Panda is... Okay, we can raid Lyric. Awkward Panda is spot on that sometimes putting on the mask is extremely exhausting. So I think the other thing that could be going on here with Zell, and sometimes y'all know this as well, is that when you go into a new situation, if you're a chameleon, you're basically like using scan on everybody, right? And once you have everyone sorted out and you know like how everything works and how people talk and what you can say and not say and what you should wear and not wear, once you do all the scanning and you know how to behave, then you can show up next time and it'll be easier. So it could just be that as well. But let's go ahead and raid Lyric. Looks like it's God of War Ragnarok, which I'm going to try to not get spoilery note on. But how's the game, y'all? Y'all play this? Hey, it's the guy from Opry GX, but for real, I'm a fan of you. Awesome. Roadster XD. Thanks for coming. Okay, well, I think we may be doing a gaming stream sometime this week. So, wait, not this week. Tomorrow's Friday. We're not doing it tomorrow. Maybe next week. So we'll see y'all tomorrow, actually. So regular stream time. Take care, everybody.